大家好，我是好儿，欢迎收看酒心智库威士忌频道。哇，好久没有拍片了，因为有特别的威士忌要讲给大家听。其实这几年讲威士忌到现在，发现到一件事情，就是好像台湾的消费者现在对于这种传统的威士忌风味啊。似乎有渐渐厌倦的状态。为什么讲厌倦呢？因为有很多人来跟浩尔讲说，浩尔啊，好像我们在常常喝的这些威士忌里头，它的风味的架构跟整个风味的感觉，似乎同质性越来越高。但其实市场很有趣哈，就是当这个传统的威士忌风味发展到一个程度的时候呢，就会像葡萄酒一样，就会有全新的世界的威士忌跑出来。新世界威士忌有一个最大的特征是什么？第一个，它充满了很多你过去没有见过的风味，跟过去没有见过的制程，所以你永远是带着一个好奇心，你永远是带着一个我不知道会发生什么事的心情在喝这些新的酒。所以我们今天要来介绍一个新世界威士忌的酒厂，它叫做 Fielden英田，中文翻叫英田，很有趣。为什么叫英？为什么要田？英来自于它不是苏格兰威士忌，它是英格兰威士忌。田来自于因为土地上田园里发生的一切，才是这个酒厂创造风味差异性的重点。而我们今天请到了2位这个酒厂的重要的关键人物来到台湾酒心智库的现场，一位是他的 Master Blender、Master Distiller， 就是最主要的威士忌风味舵手 Francisco， 然后另外一位呢是他的001号员工，听说在酒厂里头一开始什么事都做过，但是呢后来是他的业务总监 Charlie 来到现场，所以我们欢迎 Charlie， 欢迎 Checo。
So I've been working at the distillery since the beginning. I've worked in most jobs in Fielden, and nowadays I am the sales director, so I spend most of my time talking about all the work we do.
Okay, so you are the right person in our film.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, keep talking.
No, the main man you want is next to me.
Charlie's the best ambassador. I'm Chico. Basically responsible for all the liquid development at Fielden, straight from the grain field with our farmers, all the way through production into maturation and blending.
If we have Charlie and Checo, and then we know everything about Fielden, right?
All the good, all the bad.
Oh, okay. So are you gonna say the bad things?
Yeah, no, we'll keep that.
I think I spent most of my whiskey life in the past couple years drinking what I call traditional Scotch whiskey, or maybe a little bit Japanese whiskey. So I think most of the whiskey drinkers in Taiwan may be very interested in the main idea and the concept of Fielden.
So we are an English whiskey focused on growing all our grains with no chemicals, no pesticides, and growing old varieties that were never used to produce whiskey before.
Is this the reason why you call your whiskey Fielden?
Yes.
Everything is about the field.
Fielden is Old English for of the field or from the field.
Oh.
So it literally means as a word from the field.
Okay, so according to the name, so we can expect the flavor of Fielden is all from the field itself.
And its true conception is what we want to achieve, to express the character from the field, the character from the grains, and how ingredients expressed through the whiskey process. We start with old varieties of grains, growing together in one field. Imagine rye growing with wheat, wheat growing with barley, but within those different grains we grow several varieties as well together, and we also plant other companion plants to help the grains grow.
What we have is grains, these diverse populations, and methodology. And so we find farmers who want to grow in a more sustainable way. We work directly with them, we give them our seeds, and we pay them by the acre, not by the yield. So we incentivize them to work with us. I think everyone is happy because we get the grains from people who are really excited by the project, and then we also take the risk, so the farmers are happy. And farmers, I've discovered in this job, they love their land. So knowing that they are not spraying their land or plowing their land makes them happy.
Now I understand, field, the land is so important to Fielden. But according to the information I got, the majority of the grain is rye. instead of the wheat or the barley that we usually have in Scotch or whiskey from other countries. Why rye? Because according to my knowledge, rye is not a grain that you can control precisely.
To understand why rye, we kind of like sat back and asked ourselves what whiskey is. The definition of whiskey is the spirit of grain. That grain can be barley, can be rye, can be wheat. We decided to work a lot with rye because rye can grow in a lot of different areas with different conditions, but also rye cross-pollinates in one field.
This doesn't happen with wheat and barley. Rye is almost like a city, a field of rye. You have different varieties with different characters. And you said, rye is hard to control.
Yes.
That's interesting because in some ways, because of our farming being quite wild, we're less interested in control. So we do want to farm and have a yield, but at the same time, we almost reject the modern idea of totally controlling the land. In agriculture, we're more interested in farming in harmony with nature.
Because usually, for the traditional whiskey, they embrace consistency. But when you have a huge diversity at the very, very beginning, it's very, very contradictory.
I'll let him talk, but the first thing to say is, this is Chico's job. This is Chico's stress.
So, the nature is chaotic. Our main goal in producing Fielden whiskey is to produce delicious liquids from sustainable farming. And the best way to approach a more natural way of farming is just allowing nature to take over with different grain varieties that bring a lot of diversity to the field. So the best way to approach a consistency is to embrace that chaos that we get from nature and produce whiskey in a quite chaotic way as well. We start with several different grain recipes, and then each recipe is fermented differently, distilled in a different style as well, in different stills, and matured in a wide range of casks.
Okay, wow. You come up with it's not a technical question, it's about, because we are talking about the value of embrace the chaos.
Yeah.
What's the payoff?
It's the flavor. The flavor that you get from unleashing all these potential combinations from different grains through the whiskey making process, it just creates a wide range of flavors into a way more kind of complete and complex whiskey. With, of course, the most important value being you produce whiskey in a sustainable way.
Chico sometimes says, I'm saying it for him, we have no choice. With the way we farm, we have to do this.
So the only way is embrace and accept it. So now I can feel how hard your job is.
Yeah, it's quite hard to achieve consistency in our projects. But the way we go about it is by developing as a library of flavors to then marry all these flavors together to express the diversity of the field, the diversity of flavors from the field.
Oh my God, you really bring my curiosity to the liquid. How about we just start the whiskey first? So now, show me the chaos.
So what we're trying right now is our main expression, Fielden rye whiskey, and it's the only one that we keep consistent. It's a blend of several different grain recipes and also from grains grown in different years. In that way you can keep consistency. It's a whiskey that usually have around 4 different years of growing, and in that way we ensure that the variabilities of different years don't impact the whiskey.
Oh my God, I just have a sip. Because when I'm talking about rye whiskey, what's come up within my mind is American rye whiskey. So the spiciness, sweetness, but when I nose it, it's totally different. It's more perfume, woody, but it's really elegant, that kind of flavors as an appetizer of the whiskey.
In this whiskey we want to pack as many different flavors as possible that come across through the grains. So you have the floral elements, the herbal elements. It's got fruity, it's nutty as well. It's earthy and spicy.
Herbal. We cannot find herbal flavor in traditional rye whiskey. It's very, very hard. It's lighter. It's more drinkable. I think that's the point. Because when I'm talking about rye, we make cocktail more. I think it's very few people drinking rye straight, right? But this one is totally drinkable. 这是一支完全可以直接喝的 rye。我刚刚把他们打断，因为我发现这支威士忌有一个很特别的地方，是我们在喝 rye 的时候都会有一些既定印象，但是它没有，它其实是一支非常 drinkable、容易易饮的 rye。尤其你在闻香气的时候，你会发现到它的层次跟它的轻松感，不是你喝平常的 rye 那种厚重的感觉，是非常非常不一样。Okay, let me come back. Yeah. So how about the palate?
This whiskey, compared to an American rye whiskey, it's fresher, as you were mentioning, and the spiciness usually associated to rye whiskies is a bit more complex because of the rye that we grow, but also the maturation process that we have. Usually, American rye whiskey is matured in American oak. We use American oak, but we also use a really nice selection of sweet light wine casks.
What do you mean, sweet light wine cask?
So Sauterne wine.
Oh, in this we have Sauterne?
Yes, Sauterne, Muscatel as well, and Madeira wine casks.
Madeira?
Yes. So these wine casks, they are able to really complement the rye character. For example, Sauterne is floral and spicy, so it complements the spiciness of the rye. I mean, comparing, for example, to, let's say, really rich port cask or a dark sherry, those will be way more aggressive to the grain flavors.
Which is nice because you were saying, you know, New World whiskey as a concept versus more traditional whiskies.
Yes.
Luckily, the flavor also speaks to that. It's new, and you need a different pair of glasses to think about whiskies like this.
I also think it makes me feel dynamic.
Really?
Because
I want one now.
Because you have a lot of flavors in your mouth and your nose, but it changes all the time. It's not like you know this whiskey in your mouth and then you're done. At that moment, no. A lot of things change.
Our goal is to take the drinker into a journey through nature, through a grain field, and really embrace the different flavors.
我想讲一句真心话，我觉得这威士忌真的要买来喝，你真的会喝到你这辈子从来没有喝过的东西，尤其是你喝了很多威士忌的人，一定要试试看，因为我是由衷的讲，就是很多人都说我们真的是业配嘛，可是 come on， 这种东西你不试，你这辈子可能没有办法喝到，因为这是一种很大的用心，而且你真的会喝到你从来没有喝过的东西在里面。Should be more story in this one, right? Okay, storyteller.
Hedgerows are the natural borders in our fields. It's like a natural fence made of trees and bushes and fruit trees. And this has been in England for about 500 years to divide land. So this expression is telling the story of a hedgerow and all the fruity flavors that you can smell in the English summer and spring.
Hedgerows are composed by a lot of different trees.
Yes.
You have wild apples growing with berries, hazel trees as well, elder trees with elder flowers and elder berries. Hedgerows are really important, not only to separate the fields, but for the diversity of the English countryside. So this whiskey is all about the fruity character, the creaminess and nutty character that can be basically found in a hedgerow.
But the flavor is heavier than the right one.
There's a lot of different, a lot of similarities, but this whiskey is composed by 4 different casks. 4 casks only go into this blend. It's a release of just 1,000 bottles.
Only 1,000 bottles.
Only 1,000 bottles. Around 300 are in Taiwan.
360.
360.
Okay.
And all.
So we have 30%.
There is now more of this in Taiwan than in the UK.
We love that.
In UK it's pretty much sold out. And all these bottles are individual numbered as well. So hedgerow, it's a blend of 4 casks. 2 of them are first fill American oak casks. from our own distillery. So we don't usually have a bourbon character.
Okay, yeah, this is my question. You said this is a first fill American oak. It's not the first fill bourbon cask that I tried before. So it's not a bourbon cask.
So we never used bourbon casks. So all the first and second fill casks that we use, they had Fielden whiskey before. They started the journey as new casks that then we kept refilling. First filled American oak casks, then one Sauterne barrique. Sauterne is a very special wine cask for us. And then odd cask here, it's a vintage port barrique. Vintage port, it's the type of wine that is not produced every year. Only the best years in Douro Valley to produce port wine. And it matures in a cask for 2 years and then in a bottle for 50 to 100 years. If you consume it before, it's not good, not good. It needs that time. Why? Because it has so many tannins that are really important for the structure of the wine. And by maturing this whiskey in this cask, you bring those tannins, also the acidity and all the elements that altogether replicates the flavor of the berries from the hedgerows.
Since I just mentioned the traditional flavor of Scotch whiskey, I think especially in Taiwan, we are in favor of drinking whiskey matured in sherry cask, like Oloroso or Pedro Jimenez. But I didn't see you use this kind of cask in your whiskey.
We use a lot of different casks in our maturation, and we actually use some sherry casks. But the sherry cask policy that we have is we only have around like 1% of our maturation being sherry, where we only focus on old casks from Solera systems that were retired after decades, that always spent their entire life in coastal bodegas. What we want from these sherry casks is not the sherry character. We want these casks to bring the salinity, the salty element.
Our maturation is about complementing the grain and the make coming from the grain. It's not about overpowering or obscuring. So a lot of whiskey releases will say, you know, Madeira cask on the front label, but we won't say that. We'll use the cask as a seasoning, or Chico will use it as an ingredient, but not as its identity. The identity is the grain. That's what we're interested in.
Charlie just mentioned the label. Can you tell us more about the label?
The concept of the label is to express the farming, as I say in a glance. This central motif here is about the concept of above and below. So what is happening above the soil, here are grains and these mixed varieties, and then below, within the second part of this roundel, below is deep root systems. And that's to express that we're interested in the farming and the diversity of our farming, both above the soil and below the soil, because lots of flavor will come from the nutrients and the minerals in the soil. And then just at the bottom here it says, fields full of life, whiskey full of flavor. Yeah, how we like to think of whiskey making.
We allow all the chaos happens, not only from the grain, but also from the cask. And we learn from the new make, from the original flavor to come up with the chaos. So to be honest, I think you are not the person, because you are the master blender, you are the whiskey makers, but you are not someone to lead the flavor happens. You just like the linkage, the bridge, the connection from the nature to the liquid. 所以你们要不要来喝一个不是被首席调酒师控制的酒？要不要来喝一个不是被酒厂创造人设定好的味道？你真的想好好喝一个自然的味道，来喝一下 Fielden英田威士忌，可能你对威士忌的认识会有一种完全不一样的体验。所以我们今天好好的谢谢 Chico， 好好的谢谢 Charlie。在我们的节目上，有机会好好试试看。那如果有任何问题，你可以在底下留言或写信给好人，我会把我的讯息转告给他们，因为我觉得我自己都有好多问题想问，所以感谢各位收看我们的频道。我是 Howard， 他是 Chico， 他是 Charlie， 我们下次见，拜拜。